Дякую, що почекали. Я рада вітати вас на другому воркшопі в рамках програми «Діалог про колаж. Міжнародний обмін ідеями». Ця програма реалізується за підтримки Європейського Союзу через грантову програму House of Europe. Зустріч модерує менеджерка проєкту Ірина Кудряшова, а над синхронним перекладом працює Лола Македон. Мене звати Аннете Сагаль, я ініціаторка цього проєкту і рада представити вам нашого лектора Кіке Конгрейнса. Кіке Congrains – аргентинський художник, який зараз проживає у Барселоні, Іспанія. Він куратор мережі Collage Wave та засновник Collage Academy. Його роботи експонувалися на численних виставках у всьому світі. Він виступав на Collage Fest у Новому Орлеані, отримав стипендію Інституту колажу у 2020 році та був членом журі Contemporary Collage Magazine Awards у 2023 році. Кіке, я передаю тобі слово. Кіке, your turn. Yes.
Sorry. Okay, now we do. Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome to the class. We're gonna talk a lot about political stuff today. This is more than a technical class. I'm gonna teach you how to think in terms of political art and how to rethink your piece when you approaching political art and of course political collage. Not here to teach you techniques, but teach you how to identify political work and how to make political work, but not just by making it, but by thinking of a concept, and then we'll be going through the piece in C. So first, let me have some presentations because we're gonna talk a lot today. I'm gonna do a little presentation on. I'm gonna share my screen. On first, we're gonna explore political art, not collage, but political art. So can you all see my screen? It says the PowerPoint screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. Oh, this is not it. So. Okay, now we're ready. Okay, so first let's begin exploring a little bit of political art. What's political art and what are the main components of political art? Well, let's begin with a quote by Bertolt Brecht, which says, "Art is not a mirror held up to reality, but a hammer with which to shape it." This quote by the German playwright and poet Bertolt Brecht suggests that art is not a passive reflection of reality, but rather an active tool that can be used to change or shape reality. In other words, rather than simply portraying the world as it is, it has the power to challenge, to provoke, and to inspire people to take action for change. Here's another quote by Peruvian writer José Carlos Mariátegui. "The artist who does not feel the agitations, the restlessness, and the yearnings of their people and their era is an artist of mediocre sensitivity and anemic understanding." In this quote, the Peruvian writer and activist José Carlos Mariátegui is suggesting that artists have a responsibility to be aware and engage with the social and political issues over time. According to Mariátegui, artists had a duty to use their work to reflect, critique, and contribute to the struggles of their people, and that their art should be means of raising consciousness and promoting social change. After these little introductions, let's begin by the basics. What is politics? Politics is the process which groups of people make collective decisions that affect their society, community, or government. It involves the exercise of power, influence, authority to determine who gets what, when, and how in a society. Politics is not limited to formal government institutions, but also includes informal and social and cultural practice that shape the distribution of resources, values, and ideas in a society. But defining politics is not a problem for us, it's a problem for political scientists. Fortunately, we don't have to define politics in order to engage in them. Engagement with politics can take many different forms, from voting and participating in protests to engaging in online debates and discussing political issues with friends and family. These actions do not necessarily require a deep theoretical understanding of politics or a formal definition of the concept. But as an artist, we need to know what we need to know now is how and why something is politics. What are the conditions of politics? Politics does not occur in private. Politics is how about we relate to others. Politics is a public affair that involves decision making and how we relate to others in society. It affects not only individuals but also the larger community, both locally and globally. For politics to exist, there must be a lack of consensus, disagreement, discord. Politics often arises when there is lack of consensus or agreement on important issues. There is not politics on things that we agree about, like milk is white. Disagreement of facts refer to situations where people have different views on what is objectively true or false. For example, people may disagree whether climate change is caused by human activity or whether a particular event occurred in the news. Difference of values of beliefs, on the other hand, refers to situations where people have different opinions or moral positions on issues that are not necessarily based on objective facts. A clear example of this is racism in America exists versus racism in America does not exist. That is a disagreement of facts. While racism in America is a problem versus racism in America is not a problem, that is a difference of values. So it's important to recognize the difference between disagreement of facts or disagreements of values or beliefs because they may require different approaches to address. Disagreement on facts may be resolved through data and evidence-based discussions, while different of values or beliefs may require dialogue and negotiation to find common ground or compromise. Issues that are considered political can evolve and change over time. For example, issues that were not considered political in the past, such as environmental rights or LGBTQ rights, are now widely recognized as political issues. Similarly, issues that were once highly politicized, such as women's suffrage, may not be longer be controversial. Therefore, the definition of what is considered political can be fluid and subject to change over time, depending on the social and cultural context. Okay, this is the definition of politics is not really that important, but it helps us to pave the way to analyzing political art. And let's analyze some types of political art. Protest art. Protest art is created with the intent of bringing attention to a social or political issue and advocating for change. It can be expressed in various forms, such as street art, murals, posters, or performance. One example of protest art is the work of Banksy, who created political charged murals and installations, often criticizing capitalism, war, and social injustice. Other example is Ai Weiwei series Study in Perspective, where he gives the middle finger to various political landmarks and monuments around the world. The protest element comes from the subversive act of using a universal gesture of defiance to challenge the power and authority of these structures. Propaganda art. Propaganda art is created to promote a specific ideology or political agenda. It often uses strong visual language, vivid colors, and simplified image to evoke emotional response from the viewer. Soviet propaganda art during the Cold War is a well-known example of this style, promoting communism and glorifying the Soviet state through posters and murals. Also included in this category is Uncle Sam recruiting posters, promoting enlisting in the military during wartime. Satire. Satirical art uses humor, irony, and exaggeration to criticize political figures or societal norms. The artist chooses humor to portray a serious or political event and create awareness among society. Kill the Poor by the Dead Kennedys is a satirical song that critiques the socioeconomic inequality and political apathy in America. The lyrics use irony and exaggeration to criticize the callousness and insensitivity of the ruling class towards the poor and marginalized. Animal Farm by George Orwell is a book satirizing the Russian Revolution and Stalinist era in the form of allegorical animal fable. There's another quote by Terry Pratchett that resumes what is satire. Satire is meant to ridicule power. If you're laughing at people who are hurting, it's not satire, it's bullying. Okay, but political art also has categories, so let's also go through those ones. Portrayal, promotion, or projection are three categories used to classify political art based on the intended function or purpose. They provide a framework for understanding the different ways in which political art can function and the different intentions behind its creation. By analyzing a piece of political art through these lenses, we can better understand the message being conceived, the target audience, and the potential impact on society. Portrayal. As the name suggests, this political art form shows a mirror to the political scenario in the present or past. It simply puts a canvas on what is happening or what has happened in the past. Usually represents or depicts political issues, events, or images that exposes flaws in society and describe events or situations that people find themselves in a result of social or political structures. Examples include portraits of political leaders, illustration, or protests of social movement. The Death of Marat by Jacques-Louis David portrays a prominent figure of a French Revolution, Jean-Paul Marat, who was assassinated in his bathhouse by Charlotte Corday, a member of a rival political faction. This scene is intended to convey a sense of tragedy and sacrifice for the revolutionary cause. The painting was widely circulated and became a symbol of the revolutionary struggle, serving as propaganda for the revolutionary cause. Migrant Mother is a photograph taken by Dorothea Lange during the Great Depression. It shows a woman named Florence Owen Thompson, and it portrays the vulnerability and desperation of immigrant workers who were forced to leave their homes in search of work and better life. It's a strong political statement that exposes the systemic issues of poverty and equality in America and highlights the failure of the government and society to protect and support its citizens during times of crisis. Promotion. This refers as to political art that aims to promote or advocate for a particular political ideology or agenda. Examples include political posters or flyer campaign for political candidates or art that supports social justice movements. Its main goal is to shape public opinion and can be used as a tool for persuasion and mobilization. During World War II, during the United States government commissioned Norman Rockwell a series of posters known as Rosie the Riveter, campaign to encourage women to take on industrial jobs in support of the war effort. The posters were successfully in promoting the idea that women were capable of working in traditional male-dominated fields and played a role in changing societal attitudes towards women's roles in the workplace. Other example is the iconic Hope poster created by artist Shepard Fairey during the Barack Obama presidential campaign in 2008. The posters was widely distributed and helped to galvanize support for Obama's campaign. Projection. This
Я
refers
замовлю
to
ще
political
каву. Засистила.
This refers to political art that imagines or envisions alternative political features of realities. It highlights the role of the political art in stimulating critical thinking and imagining new ways of organizing society. Examples include science fiction or dystopian art that explore political themes or art that critiques or existing political structures and proposes alternatives. The Wall by Pink Floyd, a concept album that uses music and lyrics to project a dystopian vision of a world in which the individual freedom has been sacrificed for the sake of conformity and control. We, by Sevgeny Samayatin, is considered a seminal work of dystopian fiction. The novel portrays a future society called the One State, which is completely controlled and regulated by the government. The story is a critique of totalitarianism and the dangers of excessive government control over individual lives. The novel reflects Samayatin's own experience in living in Russia during a time of political upheaval and censorship. It also served as an influence for later dystopian works such as George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. So, how to approach political art? Political issues are often complex and layered. They are fundamentally cultural. What is political in one culture, like universal healthcare, is not political in another. Every one culture is idiosyncratic. It's a product of a unique life experience, and every one culture is shared. It's a product of the society we live in. Politics is not a game for the faint-hearted. It means wading into disagreement and discord. It means taking a stand of position. It means questioning and understanding one's own position and understanding the positions of others. It involves a certain amount of radical empathy and a willingness to disregard the feelings of others. You have to risk to be unoffensive. It's important to challenge the status quo and push for change in society. This often involves taking positions that are seen offensive or controversial by some. However, in order to make people think critically about the issues facing our society, it is necessary to risk being offensive. This does not mean that we should needlessly be hurtful or disrespectful towards others, but rather that we should be unafraid to express ideas that may challenge the norms and beliefs of those around us. By being bold and apologetic in our beliefs, we can spark important conversations and debates that can lead to meaningful change. Ultimately, the key is to approach these issues with thoughtfulness and respect, while also being unafraid to speak truth to power and to challenge the dominant narrative. So, this is are three questions that I want you to ask yourself when you are creating your political piece. What is the police? What community as you as the artist are speaking of or to? What facts or values are you challenging with your art? And what that you want the viewer to do upon looking at your art? So personally, I want art that helps me understand the motivations of people other than myself, and that calls me to be a more attentive, well-informed, and compassionate person. Is that uncomfortable knowledge that sticks with us when we're not in front of the art. What I appreciate about political art is the way that encourages us to constantly reframe our values, to reconsider what we hold to be right or wrong and true or false at every turn. For me, that is an art that is undeniably worthwhile. And now, let's take a look at some political art and artists. Possibly the father of all political pieces is Guernica by Pablo Picasso. Perhaps the best known indictment of the horrors of war, Pablo Picasso's Guernica, is the artist's response to Germany's April 1937 bombing of the small village of Guernica in the Basque region of Spain. The country was embroiled in a civil war, and Hitler had aligned the support of General Franco and the right-wing nationalists, who sought to overthrow Spain's left-leaning Republican government. Understood to be a training mission for the German Air Force, the bombing of Guernica, not of strategic military value, lasted for 3 hours and killed or wounded 160 civilians. The news reached Paris soon after, and the atrocity was well documented in the papers. Picasso's monumental painting represents the horror of what had transpired, but not in specific realistic terms. When it was presented in the Spanish pavilion of the Paris Exposition later that year, it served as a powerful protest of the atrocities perpetrated by Germany's Third Reich, whose own pavilion was on display not far from Spain's. Complex and much divided iconography is played in this work, whose carefully composition echoes more traditional European history painting. But it veers decisively away from that in its abstraction and depiction of war as truly unheroic. Originally shown at a fair celebrating new technologies, this 25-foot wide painting instead exposed the horrors of those technologies enabled under Hitler's growing fascism. It later toured Europe to raise funds for Spanish refugees and was kept at the MoMA until returning to Spain in 1981. It remains, it remains a power symbol of past and future tragedy. German artist Kate Kollwitz turned to printmaking in the early 1890s, depicting oppressed, poverty-stricken, and yet defiant workers. She realized the print's potential for social commentary. They were inexpensive and easily reproducible, and her work was widely circulated and admired. They were seen as powerful commentary on the social and political issues of her time, including poverty, war, and oppression. Kollwitz bore witness to both world wars, losing a son in the first and a grandson in the second. Fusing her own experience of tragedy with the suffering of those around her. Women and children often take center stage in her prints, showing in graphic and intimate details the realities of war and the inconsummate toll it takes on society most vulnerable. The power of her work has not diminished in the ensuing decades. Her images are her universal human experience, familiar tenderness, mourning, and death, and the pain they depict is so raw and real and so present. Kazimir Malevich, an Ukrainian artist of Polish descent, took a vastly different approach from Kolowitz and pretty much everyone else who were using realism to address the horrors of the early 20th century. Malevich wrote, in the year 1913, trying desperately to free art from the dead weight of a real world, I took refuge on the form of a square. He unveiled his painting Black Square to the St. Petersburg public in 1915, and it was just that, a black square on white canvas, part of a new language of shapes and forms he called suprematism, whose radically simplicity presented a challenge to all art that came before. But he hung the painting on the top of a corner of a gallery, in the place traditionally reserved for the displays of Russian icons in many homes. Malevich felt that art should be overturned in the beginning of what he called the zero of form. It wasn't an escape from reality. For him, it was its own reality, and he called the painting an icon of our time, a sacred spot, darkness. After the revolution, Malevich's abstract approach was put to use by the Bolshevik regime, creating propaganda for the new government. Legendary American text artist Barbara Kruger made her name in the 70s with a striking, attention-grabbing slogan in black, white, and red. Adopting the aesthetics of advertising, she combined short text with photograph for immediate impact. Her terse statements question the everyday images and texts that surround us, inviting us to rethink the role in politics, power, and control. But it's her feminist imagery that had the most lasting impact. Kruger works consists of images that critique power, sexism, consumerism, and other social issues. She is an anti-capitalist activist, and her use of style is very ironic. Through her art, she attempts to make us doubt the ethics and effectiveness of our capitalist society. Her message is particularly relevant today as we continue to grapple with the impact of capitalism in our life and on the environment. Her 1989 work, Your Bodies, A battleground is her most famous artwork, which became the poster image for a series of much publicized campaign for the Women March on Washington in support of reproductive freedom. The women's face, disembodied, split in positive and negative exposure and obscured by text, marks a stark divide. Through its origin, it's tied to a specific moment. The power of work lies in the timeless of the declaration. Your body is a battle. In 1988, the movie They Live, directed by John Carpenter, in the movie, the main character discovers a pair of special sunglasses that allow him to see through the propaganda and expose the true message behind the images. This concept is reminiscent of the work of artist Barbara Kruger, who also attempts to accomplish the function of the sunglasses by raising questions that make us doubt the effectiveness of ethics of advertising in our society. In 1995, Chinese artist Ai Weiwei dropped a 2,000-year-old urn and photographed the moment it shattered. The act, both bold and controversial, challenged ideas about the value of history, art, and authority. While some saw it as destruction, others view it as a powerful statement about breaking with the past to question the present. The photograph of the broken urn now hangs in museums and sells for millions, making Ai one of the most influential artists of his time. Well versed in antiques, he knew the value of historical objects and symbolic power of manipulating them. Chinese antiquities became a raw material for a new kind of ready-made, dynamically synthesizing the clash between reverence for the past and the irrepressible drive toward the future. For modernization is a mixed bag. He takes a basic unit, say a stool, and multiplies, compounds it, and see where it takes us. History that will be otherwise be relegated to dusty shops and landfill is made strikingly, unforgettably visible. Ai Weiwei is often seen as an iconoclast, but his work is just much about remembrance as it is about rebellion. Rooted in history and tradition, his art resists forgetting and challenges culture eager to discard the past. It urges to reflect on what we value, what we preserve, and what we allow to be lost. Norman Rockwell became widely known through his illustration for the Saturday Evening Post, a major source of visual entertainment before the TV took off. His work often showing innocent kids, humorous scenes, and idealized American life reached millions, but many found it tame, bland, and safe. Until 1944, when Rockwell made a painting which could be considered political. The painting is simply called Freedom of Speech. When Rockwell attended a local town meeting, he saw someone voicing his disagreement, and he was the only contestant, yet people listened respectfully and attentively. This painting is political both in theme and context, and is the first in Norman Rockwell's The Four Freedom series, inspired by Roosevelt's 1941 speech outlining freedoms that contrasted American values with Nazi ideology. As the US prepared for war, Rockwell aimed to support the cause. His paintings became powerful propaganda, raising 132 million in war bonds through the poster sales. When asked why he didn't paint many black people in the past, he answered that it was because the Saturday Evening Post, the magazines he used to work for, didn't allow it. Painting African Americans will be too disturbing to the audience. This is where Norman Rockwell will voice an even stronger political position through his art. He resigned from the Saturday Evening Post, and in 1964 he painted The Problem We All Live With. The topic's pretty self-evident for anyone who knows the history of Ruby Bridges and the New Orleans School of the Segregation crisis of the 1960s. In 1960, six-year-old Ruby Bridges became the first black child to attend a formerly all-white school in New Orleans, facing violent protests and escorted by federal marshals. Rockwell paintings captures this historical moment from the protesters' point of view, focusing on Ruby's courage. Her placement slightly ahead in the frame suggests her eagerness to learn, while the faceless marshals and the chaotic background emphasize her strength and innocence. Shows a great shows a great display of confidence, which also is demonstrated through her strong posture. What is amazing in these political paintings are that while Norman Rockwell decided to take a strong stance for desegregation with more serious and controversial images, he still did it to his typical and sensitive depiction of child innocence. Through his paintings, Rockwell was able to capture the spirit of the times and bring attention to important issues such as civil rights, democracy, and freedom of speech. Okay, this is for the first presentation. And now we're gonna get deep into collage. We're gonna talk now about a political collage. Just give me 1 minute and I'll be right back with you. Okay, let's continue. Let's talk about when and how political art, political collage came to be. It's difficult to attribute the first use of political collage to a single artist, as the medium has been used in various forms throughout history for political and social commentary. However, the dada artists of the early 20th century are often
Kike,
credited. Hello?
uh, I don't see the next presentation. There's
Oh,
a.
okay. Let me stop sharing and share again.
Mhm.
How about now?
Yes, I think
Okay.
it's the next one. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. It's difficult to attribute the first use of political collage to a single artist, as the medium has been used in various forms throughout history for political and social commentary. However, the dada artists of the early 20th century are often credited with popularizing collage as a means of political expression. The nationalistic fervor which swept Germany at the start of the First World War inspired many young artists to enlist, but their enthusiasm for war couldn't survive the reality of the battlefield. There were many who died in the trenches, and those who survived had their ideas about art and the role of artists fundamentally challenged by their experience of war. Born out of revulsion with the war and inhumanity of the world, Dada found a receptive welcome in Berlin. Dada used total nonsense as a rationalization of the human carnage caused by war. Dadaists didn't use the term collage but photomontage, which is was itself a cut and paste mix of cubist collage, futurist typography, and a constructivist machine aesthetic. Dada mostly incorporated photograph and sometimes along with other collage and painted elements. The first data fair in Berlin featured art that condemned war and mocked the military, which slogans like Dada fights on the side of the revolutionary proletariat and Dada is political. The police raided the gallery, arrested our organizers, and banning their political magazines, but the artists remained committed to using art as a weapon against the military and bourgeois. Bourgeois. Okay, let's take a look at some seminal collage political pieces. One of the most disturbing images from this period is a work entitled Anatomy as Bride from 1921. Ernst, Ernst lays before the viewer an eviscerated quasi-mechanical woman on a dissecting table or maybe submerged on a therapeutic bath. The source photograph details the observation sits on a biplane which Ernst added a female head, shoulders, and arm. By combining fragments of mechanical objects with bits of human anatomy, Ernst commented on the wounded and mutilated soldiers who began visibly to populate the streets of German cities before and after the war. Also by Max Ernst, Murder Airplane was inspired by World War I and aerial combat, which was the first war which it was introduced. The collage depicts a monstrous airplane with humans' arms flying over a field while soldiers carry a wounded comrade. The title emphasized the airplane's murderous intent, suggesting that only humans can murder. Through his work, Ernst sought to capture the horror of aerial warfare using color to evoke the brutality of war. Hannah Hodge. Known for her incisively political collage, Hannah Hodge appropriated and recombined images and text from mass media to critique popular culture, the failings of the Weimar Republic, and the socially constructed roles of women. Hodge became associated with the Berlin Dada Group, a circle of mostly male artists who satirize and critique German culture and society following World War I. She participated in their exhibitions, including the first International Dada Fair in Berlin in 1920, and her photomontages received critical acclaim despite the patronizing views of her male peers. This photomontage created during the German Revolution combines seemingly unrelated images to convey a political message. By juxtaposing newspaper image of Weimar-era German President Friedrich Ebert and Minister of Defense Gustav Nosk at the beach over an embroidery pattern with childish drawings in the background, Hodge subverts the original intended meaning of the image, what was originally supposed to be a proud picture of some of the most powerful men in the world has had the original meaning completely reversed, making them look less serious and masculine. Hannah Hodge 1990 photomontage cut with the kitchen knife Dada through the last Weimar beer belly culture epoch of Germany critiques the male-dominated Weimar Republic and German military. The work is the large, densely packed composition that combines photograph, illustration, and text to create a highly fragmented and disoriented image of a German society in the aftermath of World War I. The title references the cultural upheavals of the time, including the rise of Dadaism and the collapse of the Weimar Republic. While mocking Weimar politicians, Cut with the Kitchen Knife also celebrate women's victory. A map of the lower corner indicates the countries where women had the right to vote. In the center of the composition, the head of artist and activist Kate Kollwitz, taken from a recent newspaper story, attests to her appointment as the first female professor at the Prussian Academy of Arts. It seemed fitting that the instrument used to excise this piece is a kitchen knife, an instrument aligned with women's work. Hodge was very focused on the world of women artists and the idea of domesticity as being something that could undermine cultural values. Cut with the kitchen knife gained Hodge a lot of attention and to this day is considered one of her most popular pieces. The photomontage symbolizes the piecing together of German society after World War I and the social, political, and even artistic hypocrisies that existed in the era. John Hartfield. The year, sorry, the German anti-fascist artist John Hartfield was a pacifist. He rose to number 5 in the Gestapo's most wanted list, working in the shadow of a Third Reich. His only crime was his art as a weapon that used integrity and humor to reveal the fascist lies of dictators. To compose his works, he chose recognizable press photographs of politicians or events from the mainstream illustrated press. Then he disassembled and rearranged these images to radically alter the meaning. At a time of great uncertainty, Hartfield's agitated images forecasted and reflected the chaos Germany experienced in the 1920s and 30s as it slipped towards social and political catastrophe. In this climate, communists, Nazis, and other partisans clashed in the press, at the ballot box, and on the streets. The impact of Hartfield images was so great that it helped transform photomontage into a powerful form of mass communication. He created these powerful images for AIs, the Workers' Illustrated Magazines, a popular leftist publication in Weimar, Germany, that opposed the rise of the Nazi Party. With readership focused on the working class, the magazine became a platform for his anti-Nazi montages. For he 140 images, many appear on the magazine's covers. Supporters spread his work by posting his anti-Nazi posters throughout Berlin. Adolf the Superman. This photomontage reveals Hitler as an orator who speaks mere rhetoric or rather junk. To create the image, Hartfield overlaid a widely publicized photograph of Hitler with a chest X-ray. The caption reads, Adolf the Superman swallows goals and spouts steam. Here, Hartfield refers to the large contributions that wealthy industrialists were making to the Nazi Party despite its alleged base in socialism. Hartfield image reveals the contradictions between Hitler's financial support and his working man rhetoric. In this one, Hitler sharpens his knife to kill the Gallic cock, while he smirkingly poses as the innocent vegetarian. The French Foreign Minister Bonnet stands on the left and counts the Gallic rooster, the symbol of France. As Hitler rose to power, many saw him as this harmless politician, though some other knew otherwise. In this piece, Hartfield was using art as an instrument, sounding an alarm for anyone who thought Hitler was nothing to fear. When the Nazis came to power in 1933, Hartfield and his anti-Nazi imagery were immediately targeted. With the Nazis on his heel, Hartfield left Berlin for food for break, where he continued to work for the magazine. Friederike Brandeis was a prominent figure at the Bauhaus School, known for her diverse artistic talents, including lithographs, lace, tapestries, collages, and textiles. In 1934, she joined the underground anti-fascist movement, was briefly imprisoned for her communist activities, and then fled to Prague. There, she worked with children of political refugees from Germany, forming deep connections with them. In the early 30s, Friedel produced powerful photo collages for communist posters, though little of her photographic work survives, such as This is what it looks like, my child, this world, from 1933. She used clippings from left-wing magazines, clearly framing her work as social critique. The picture of a newborn baby at the center is surrounded by cut-out newspapers photographs. These are concentrically arranged around the infant. Below, there are heads of politicians such as Hitler, crowd scenes of marches, pregnant women, cannons, and squadrons of aircraft. In 1942, the Nazis deported Friedel and her husband to Terezin, a concentration camp in Czechoslovakia. There, her She and her husband and thousands of other Jewish children suffering from malnutrition, diseases, and physical torture. In the middle of the children's depression and misery, Friedel strove towards a goal she knew could be achieved through her art skill, teaching children art as a therapy to help them cope with grief. Friedel spent her days in terracing, searching every morning for material for her classes. She clandestinely gave art classes to hundreds of young boys and girls. She designed sets and costumes for children's performance and made secret exhibitions of children's drawings. Her warm and innovative teaching methods she learned at the Bauhaus truly helped these children in the time of chaos and tragedy. In 1944, she was transferred to Terezin to Auschwitz, and 3 days later, Friedel Brandeis was murdered in the gas chamber. Dirk Brandeis' work might have easily been forgotten. She often did not sign and gave works away from friends and neighbors. Many of her drawings, paintings, and collage and interior designs were only found again in the 1980s. The most extraordinary aspect of her rediscovery were the close to 4,000 children's drawings made in her art classes in Terezin. And we move now to more contemporary times. American artist Martha Rosler began collecting images from magazines and creating a series of photomontages she titled House Beautiful, Bringing the War Home. The war in question was the Vietnam War, which by 1967, the year she began making the collages, was reaching the peak of US involvement, and public opposition to the war was growing also that year. Using the technique of collage pioneered by the Dadaists, who were also responding to war in their time, Rosler brought together images of a war front from Life magazines with advertisings and photo features of pristine US homes from the House Beautiful magazine. The Vietnam War was called the Living Room War and marked the first conflict in which journalists were given near unlimited access to combat zones, and the reporting and photography permeated the news and print and on TV. Said the images we saw were always very far away in a place we couldn't imagine, and her incongruous images takes us immediately there. Including the drapes, we see a well-dressed woman vacuuming her damask drapes, parting them to reveal soldiers in the field. The home here is not a space of escape, but of engagement, of confronting the realities of war in a place usually understood as separate. Red Strip Kitchen suggests that the war had infiltrated even the most intimate spaces of American homes, and the delusion on domestic tranquility was just that, an illusion. Balloons shows a picture-perfect American home with a pile of colorful balloons resting in the corner. In the foreground, a Vietnamese man holding an injured child in his arm looks up the stairs. A simple juxtaposition that brings the reality of the Vietnam War into the American home. Rosler distributed and published the images in anti-war journals and distributed them as photocopies and flyers, keeping them out of an art context for a number of years. But no matter where do you see, the images retain the ability to shock, to compel us, to confront and try to reconcile the jarring barrage of images we look at every day, whether within a magazine or a browser window. Also, there is a feminist element to the work, as it comments on the robotic mundaneness of female domestic work in the midst of global unrest. The idea of women striving to keep the house beautiful while war tragedies are omnipresent becomes almost comical and presents us real pictures about what we deem important. Peter Kinnard is one of Britain's most influential political artists, active since the late 60s. He has addressed issues such as nuclear proliferation, the Iraq War, climate change, and global inequality through powerful photomontages that have become iconic protest images. Kenner, initially involved in anti-Vietnam War protests, shifted from painting to photomontage to better combine art and politics for a broader audience. His work often incorporates news imagery and photojournalism, capturing key global political events. In Crash Missiles, a weather hand twists and shatters a nuclear missile. The clenched fist, a symbol of solidarity, triumphs over the threat of war and destruction. In Broken Missile, a missile is shattered against the peace sign symbol, symbolizing the power of a people to dismantle the nuclear threat. Highway with Cruise Missiles from 1980 is one of Peter Kenner's more iconic works. These subversive photomontages reimagine John Constable Haywayne by inserting nuclear warhead into the tranquil East Anglian countryside. The Haywayne is transformed into a rocket launcher, while direct missiles disrupt the calm, symbolizing the threat of nuclear weapons. The piece responds to the proposal of housing US nuclear missiles in rural England and critiques a Ministry of Defense leaflet that depicted the missiles in softer, more delicate manner. Kenner's work has had a significant impact on other artists, both within the realm of political art and beyond. His techniques and messages have inspired countless others to use their art as means of addressing social and political issues. Winston Smith is a renowned collage artist, often referred to as the punk surrealist, who has been creating thought-provoking art since the 70s. Based in the Bay Area, Smith left the United States in 1969 to study Renaissance art in Italy, and upon his return, he experienced a significant cultural shock. Moved by the significant social changes that had taken during his absence, he began utilizing images from magazines to create political charged work of art. Smith first became known for his collaboration with the Dead Kennedys and his numerous album covers, logo, and flyers for the band in their formative years. In 1981, his collage of a crucifix made of dollar bills that appeared on the album In God We Trust was banned in England and condemned by the American religious right, giving Smith and Dead Kennedys some notoriety. This collage by Winston Smith from 1982 was used on the insert for the album Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death by the Dead Kennedys. The collage features a mother nursing a baby, but instead of a bottle, the baby is being fed a fighter aircraft. The image is a powerful commentary on the militarization of society and the ways in which war and violence are often portrayed as necessary or even desirable. According to Smith, punk was primarily an art movement that was closely intertwined with music. His artistic style, which combines a sense of chaos, surrealism, and simplicity in collage, perfectly complemented the political commentary of punk bands during that era. Smith's artwork, which was prominently featured in album covers and concert flyers, would eventually become a source of inspiration for future generations of artists. Guy Boucher is a British artist and activist who has worked in several different mediums: collage, photography, sculpture, painting, and video, to name a few. But what has stayed constant is their unique brand of political activism, full of provocative engagement with social issues of our time. Her collages are characterized by their use of vivid imagery and bold, sometimes confrontational messages. She was a member of the influential anarcho-punk band Crass, from whom she made most of the album covers, posters, and flyers. Crass defined what was to be the epitome of militant, political conscious, anti-corporate punk in the 20th century. She produces using photographic and material culled from various sources and brought together in juxtapositions that often pack a political punch. Boucher's work has been influential in the world of punk and DIY culture. Her collaborations with the band Crass helped to define the visual aesthetic of the punk movement, and her DIY approach to art making has inspired countless artists to create political engaged work. Jimmy Reed, who recently died a couple of years ago, primarily known for his extensive work with the Sex Pistols. Jimmy Reed was a British artist whose work exemplifies punk culture. His work, whether it was for the band or made as a separate piece, came to define and symbolize the English punk rock scene of the late 70s. Collage remained his primary medium, though he regularly employed the collage technique. His most famous works include the Sex Pistols album Nevermind the Bollock, Here's the Sex Pistols, and the singles Anarchy and UK, and God Save the Queens. The latter features a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with a safety pin through her nose and swastikas in her eyes, widely regarded as the single most iconic image of the punk era. Reed started with collage when she launched Suburban Press, a publishing outfit that specialized in producing materials for anarchist, women groups, and other associations that saw themselves as being on the margin. In order to get better at what he did with Suburban, Reed developed his own unique style of cutting up graphic and other elements of magazines and fusing them together via collage technique that had the visuals of some sort bizarre ransom note. Reed collages were a potent political statement. Many of his designs featured slogans and critiques that challenged the status quo and called for radical change. This was in line with the punk ethos, which rejected mainstream values and sought to create a new, more equitable society. Mhm. Okay, so this was the two presentations on what's out there, what's the information out there. No, so what we're gonna do now is now I'm gonna show you my work, what I've been doing in political art lately, and I can show you some examples, and then we can have a talk about it, and then I will tell you my creative process to create political art, and then we can proceed to some questions from all of you. Okay, let me do this. So can everyone see the screen? No, no. Okay,
Yes.
amazing. So I live in Spain right now, but I come from Peru originally. Uh, and Peru, as you might know, is a very difficult country, and we are very angry at a lot of stuff. So it's a fertile ground to do political art, as many of Ukrainians must agree with me right now, of course. So political art is a really a great way to just when you're angry at something, when you are angry at something that society has done to you, you use art to express yourself, and collage is a great way of doing so. So this is the Peruvian Congress, and I guess in everyone at some point of their lives wanted to see their Congress on flames because I think that corrupt politicians is more of a global thing rather than just as a particular country. I think every country has corruption and every country has these bad elements. So for me, it was really a way of doing like really quick, really angry. I don't haven't got too much technique on this. I just cut it and just express myself. You have to be visceral when expressing yourself with political collage. This is another piece I did when the COVID hit Peru, and many super religious people thought that just by praying or going to church they wouldn't contract the disease, and they were proven totally wrong. For me, this is like Corona Jesus trying to preach everyone get a vaccine or something like that. So this is a piece I did when Notre Dame was burning, and lots of millionaires came up with money to to make it right and stuff like that. And I was left wondering why, where are these people when other real tragedies occur, not a freaking church burning, you know? So this is the things that kind of put me to work, you know? This guy died recently, and this piece was done like decades ago, no, like decades, like years ago, because every pope has scandals on their back, and the church always, like, you know, like putting under the rug many many cases of abuse on the church. So this piece kind of speaks of itself. It's really important for me with collage to invert my creative process. How you usually do collage? You go check a magazine, check for images, and you see which images strike you most, and then you take it out and use the collage. For political collage, I do exactly the other way. I first think of the image, think of a concept, and then I go and print the images I want. So for this one, I first thought of all the child molestation cases that the church has put it under the rug, and put the blame onto the current pope by placing very obvious my collage. I know, putting like suffering children coming up from the head. This is the concept. So if I would go and look for this picture of the Pope and picture of babies crying all over magazines, I would never end, you know, I would search endlessly. So for me, political collage, you first come with the idea and then you execute. And you have to go and search for the images on internet and then print them, because you clearly won't find them as easily on magazines. This is a collage on a knife, done because in that year, and it was like March, it was reported like 30 or 40 feminicides in Peru, in Lima. And I thought it was like a really shocking cipher in the first quarter of the year. So I decided to do, and one of the most of the killings were though with white weapons, you know, with knives and stuff like that. So I decided to do a collage on a knife representing this, the violence against women. As you can see in the blade, there's women suffering, and in the hilt, there's aggressive men. So it's, for me, is the concept of not only doing a piece that is on a wall, but doing a living piece with a murdering weapon, you know? So taking the concept even further. And then again, I had to print the images I want, because it's very difficult to come up with a concept and then finding the exact same images you want on a magazine. This is done by Columbus Day, so fuck that. The race day, we call it race day, but the rest of the world calls it Columbus Day. And it's kind of my way of retelling the story of Columbus' arrival, that bring a lot of death, not only by the diseases that the country caused, but the brutality of Cristobal Colon with the people of the Caribbean, you know? So usually history gets rewritten by the winners, and we've heard that Colon was a great conquistador, a great explorer, and it was nothing but a mere pirate. This one talking about fast fashion, you know, the 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 clothes we all use, and the toll it takes on lesser visibilized communities, you know, like Latinos or like South Asian people that work in sweatshops just to make the clothes we all wearing, you know. That's kind of shameful for all of us. And again, this is a really simple collage, you know, just an image with a font and some geometrical shapes to complement the concept. You can do pretty or you can do ugly, doesn't matter. You have to take put your point across with political collage. You have to be blunt in the way you express yourself. This one was done when I found out that Chanel is not animal cruelty theory, that they still, while they don't do animal testing themselves, they contract they seek out companies that do the animal testing from themselves for themselves. So and in bunnies, of course. So I could have used, a bottle of Chanel and mutilated that bunnies, use gore, but that would be the shocking and obvious way for me, a more direct way to get at the heartstrings of people that they see this collage was using, instead of real bunnies, using bunnies we all love from a childhood, bunnies we all know, we cherish, we don't imagine them as being like torture or something like that. So for me, is this collage trying to convey a deep sense of nostalgia and awareness to the issue of bodies being tested. This is a really straightforward kind of Nazis suck, you know? So nothing much to explain here, rather than if you see a Nazi, punch him. This one I wanted to talk about pollution in the planet, There's the concept of terraforming, that if we ever colonize other planets, we have to terraform it, meaning we have to make the atmosphere palatable for humans. And that got me thinking, what is really our atmosphere? What is really the thing that defines us as humans? Trash. We love trash and we leave trash everywhere we go. So for me, having the world like dripping all the trash, this is what we generate as humans, So it's kind of like a really painful collage to watch, because this is what we produce as humans. These are more local collages. These are Peruvian politicians. These are the Fujimori dynasty, which tried to be president of Peru like 2 or 3 times, and her daughter. And to the right is a map of Peru after an elections that went awful, awful, and left the country divided. Again, really simple concept that speaks of a particular context, in the context of my native country. Again, this is Fujimori when he was faking to be really, really sick, so he get a pardon from prison. He didn't get one, but he died eventually, so we're happy for that. And this is the Peruvian coat of arms, but reimagined as an autopsy of a woman, of the motherland, A woman beaten, exploited, and taking the resources away, So all that would be the violence and exploitation our country suffers every day, but embodied in a in autopsy, And to the right you have the coat of arms in which was inspired. Again, this is the Peruvian flag, but put it in a very particular way. And this is like really, really awful news from the homeland. I just put it like this is bull crap, but with the forming the colors of the flag. There was a super awful oil spill in the beaches of Lima some years ago by Repsol, evil company if there's one. And Repsol didn't even acknowledge the spill, and left lots of beaches in Lima contaminated. So this was my kind of way of doing this collage that talks about the future, This might be our futures as beachgoers in Peru, Full of oil. This is a Peruvian constitution, which I carved the dollar signs. This is like very self-explanatory because it talks about corruption, and put it under the bed of the single of the minor definition of the coins. So for me, it's that we are selling for cents, you know? This is a popular dance and monument here in Barcelona, which is called La Sardana, which is like a group dance. And I just put it a Christmas trees made of skulls because now that I live in Europe, it seems like people live too comfortable here to even care about what is happening on the neighbor countries, you know? And for me, it was kind of a call to action that, hey, we are celebrating Christmas while there's war everywhere around us, you know? So I'm not trying to be a party pooper, but we should acknowledge that we're having it good here while the other places aren't. Here I was talking about a FIFA World Cup. When the FIFA World Cup took place in Qatar, lots of migrant workers died while making these stadiums that weren't used more rather than one or two times for the matches and then forgotten, you know, and for what millions of people came to Qatar to work under awful conditions under searing heat just to never return to their families. So for me that is like a big black mark on football's back. On the FIFA more than football, the sport doesn't have the guilt of this. Some collages talking about what's happening in Gaza right now, you know, like how a multinational companies are taking a stance like supporting Israel or not a reading the room and seeing that their support is like is not good for these causes, man. So using like very shocking imagery, but sometimes you got to shock to get your point through, you know, you got to be offensive. Like I see an image to the right when I publish it, a lot of people call me out for being offensive, for being this and that. And hey, if you do political art, you have to prepare yourself for some heat, you know, for some people calling you this, calling you that. You just keep on doing your work and keep on doing your stuff, you know. A little one, this is talking about what happened when the United States give you a hand, you know. This was it's right after when the United States retired from Afghanistan and Taliban took over, you know. And the funny thing, if the United States see this collage actually right now, I would never enter the States again. So it's gonna become this inflammatory piece because United States are now seeking the Instagram of people that travel there to see if they have any anti-US statement or sentiment in their profile, which is like crazy. This is a series of old children books. I don't know if you don't know them, but in Latin America and America, they're known as uh, escalofríos, which are like little young adult fiction but terror. And so I took out the covers and replaced them with things that talk about the political situation in my country. You really have to understand the political stuff to understand these ones, but trust me, they're really cool. So that's some of my political work. Uh, I've been doing lots of different. Not only my political work includes my collages, but remember that political work is also giving this workshop. Political work is engaging with your community, is engaging with workshop with children, and lots of stuff you could do just to engage with the people in your community. So there's been a lot of information here. I want you to take this information what you learn in this class and make a political collage. Of course, we won't be able to do this class, but I'm gonna give you some pointers for you to do your political class. First, pick a subject. Pick a subject that you are dear with, a subject that really matters you, a subject that really is near to you. I'm betting most of you, the Russian invasion is a subject, of course, and of course you are encouraged to pick that, but also that is a broad subject. Usually, I recommend that you pick subjects that are more like closed down. In the context of the Russian invasion, there are thousands of stories, individual stories that you can make pieces of. So for me, if you go broad, it's okay, but if you go like with one subject, that is more powerful. Remember, the most personal is the most creative, and you will have much more fun. That word can be used if you pick a subject that is really, really close to your heart. And remember always, before you start doing your work, research, read. You have to read about your subject. You have to inform yourself. Not only the news that you consider true, but also all type of information that you can consume to give you a more wide understanding of the subject you're tackling. So for me, that is important. And remember, you begin with the concept, with the idea, and then you move to the production of a piece. You don't begin a piece, political piece, just by finding stuff and put it, you begin with idea, with a clear objective of what if your piece is gonna be, who are you talking to, what is the objective of this political piece, and then you begin collecting images, collecting material, and then you begin processing the whole creativity part. But first, remember, pick a subject, research, collect, and then construct. For me, those are the phases of a political collage. So now I will be taking questions for anyone who has questions about how to process the collage, technical difficulties, anything about the presentation. I'm sorry, I'm really with a cold today, so but I will try to answer any question you have. So bring them. No questions? Any questions? There's a question.
Yeah. Hello. Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for this great presentation, amazing, and for your artwork also.
Thank
And my question could be about technical things.
Sure.
That a lot of nowadays we don't have enough magazine or newspaper, or we not use it. So what about where we can take this or get these pictures firstly, and second one about copywriting. It is like okay or not using pictures from internet.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's answer the questions about copywriting, because every time I do a workshop, someone asks a questions about copywriting. I'm gonna see the same. I have ever seen any collage artist that had any problem with copywriting ever. Not one single person has come to say, hey, you're using my picture from the 60s. I mean, people ask a lot of the question because as collage artists, we are using material from other people, but until now, nobody has complained. So for me, it's free for all. And usually try to use outdated material, 60s, 70s, 40s, not to use like contemporary magazines. I try to not to do it. But political art is completely different because for political art, magazines could be one source, but finding magazines with exact idea you have, good luck with that. No. So I print. I just print from the internet and I try to find images in good resolution to print them. If you don't have images in good resolution to print, then just with AI tools, we can upscale images now. So if you have any small images that you want to print big, you just put it through any upscale images on Google, and we'll upscale it to a great size. And also, when you print images, there is one thing I have to tell you: you better print on laser and not in inkjet. If inkjet printers, which are usually the inkjets that we have at home, they will ruin immediately. One drop of water and it's gone. So if you print in laser, your printing is gonna last. If some water, some humidity comes over, it won't be lost. So don't print on inkjet, just on laser. I hope you can find laser printers easily because we can't hear, so I don't know
Yep, of
what's
course.
your availability.
Thank you.
Have I encountered censorship in my practice? Yes, of course. Fucking Instagram every day. Yeah, Instagram censors a lot. We can even show a nipple and stuff like that. Um, and yes, I kind of like it when I get censorship because I kind of feel like I'm going in the right directions, you know? Is my work pisses someone's off, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So, there's a phrase from Winston Smith that I really like this. If you cannot be inspiring, at least be disturbing. And I think it really works for political art, you know, if you can really get to that place of communication, clean communication, just fuck it and be really, really visceral, you know? Yeah. And yes, all my collages are made by hands. I don't do digital work. I think handmade work is really, really the best way of expressing yourself without having much technique. Although digital work is, of course, valid if you don't know how to use scissors, which I bet you do. You can use Photoshop and stuff, but really just print stuff and rip it up, you know? Okay, I'm gonna keep on looking at questions. Yes, of course, there's a lot of newspapers with a lot of current events that you can take place, but for me, really, you can collect a lot of stuff, but when you have an idea, it's really, really hard to find that same image on 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 a newspaper, you know. You can also try to, you know, if you need like two hands shaking like this, you can try just taking a picture of your hands, you know, take matter in your own hands and produce your own photographies, produce your own stuff. There's a lot of people doing political collage. My most favorite work I've done, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. I have a lot of favorite works, and some resonates more than the others. Some are super cool, some are not that super cool, but I have them all. I left Peru a year and a half ago. Actually, I just sold all my stuff and came to Barcelona to try my luck. I came as an illegal alien. I didn't have any papers or anything through political power. And then I just met people and they really helped me along. Now I'm finally legal and putting my life together here because Peru is also going down in a political crisis that is really, really bad. Okay, do human resources. Okay, yeah, well, I did have lots of overcluttered stuff in my workshop in Peru. When I came here, I started zero, and My advice is that yes, I did have lots of stuff to do, lots of stuff in Peru, but did I really use them? Did I really I did have like some stuff from 10 years like festering there. So from my advice is keep it simple. Use what you're gonna use. Don't overclutter, don't hoard, because we collage artists tends to be hoarders, and it's fun to collect stuff, but keep it simple. It won't overwhelm you next time you do a collage. You have like thousands of magazines, thousands of books, can be a little bit overwhelming. So I tended to keep it simple. Okay, let's keep up with the questions. Oh, that is a really great question. So, have you ever created a collage that expressed a strong opinion, something, and after some times new information appeared and your view about that situation changed drastically? If yes, how did you Well, I haven't had that same experience, but I did a lot of anti-Christian collages back then, when I was started studying, like burning churches and stuff like that. And now I think that while I think those are fun pieces, those were done more with the intent of just poke instead of just conveying a political message. So I haven't changed my views on the church, but I'm becoming a little bit more respectful. So kind of like that. But I mean, we tackle in political collage, we tackle like big issues like racism, classism, xenophobia, and stuff like that. And my stance on those things is written on stone. Like I won't become a racist just because people are voting for Trump. So let's keep it up. Besides political collage, what other inspired you to create collage? How do you monetize your work? Oh, that is the question, actually, right? Because when I started doing collage, I didn't earn money of this. I wouldn't dream of migrating to another country. But what happened is that COVID hit, and then a lot of people started like taking online courses, and then I started studying collage, and putting together this little collage workshop just to make ends meet. And then I launched the Collage Academy, which is my personal project, and I started doing like guest teachers. So kind of now I gain a living just by having this Collage Academy, which we had workshops and stuff like that, which is really great because it's really, really hard to make a living just by selling your pieces. You have to like diversify and stuff like that. And really, truly, teaching is the best thing. I mean, I know Annette by teaching, and that bring me here. And so there's a whole thing that connects you with other people when you teach, which you don't have when you work alone in your workshops and doing your collage by yourself. So engaging with people, engaging with communities for me has been like the true money in this is. Okay, so besides political collage, okay, let's go. Have you been exposed to local media strong opinion? Yes, of course. In Peru, I was like already inserted in the art circuit. Everything was kind of happening for me, but I thought that Peru has like a roof too low for an artist who wants to like expand. So it's a very conservative country, and opportunities for artists are not as abroad as here. So for me, I thought I reached a limit in my career there. So I wanted to kind of start anew. Nobody knows me here, and it's really different here. So it kind of the challenge of starting anew in a new place with zero magazines was kind of crazy. Now I see it, but I don't regret it. I having a really good time. It's important for you to also not to work all the time. You have to live. So for me, this is part of it, you know. Collage brought me here, and I'm really, really grateful to the medium for that. So that's it. Yeah. So, any more questions about your work, about anything collage, about materials in collage? I'm very knowledgeable in materials and stuff like that. So, or political things. Maybe you have or already a political or idea or some sort of rough sketch you want to discuss with me. I'm all ears.
There was one question before that you missed. What is the
Mhm.
most favorite work you've done?
The most what?
Your favorite work that you've done.
Yeah. I mean, physical work, I don't have any right now. Uh, like physical work, I have so many works that I like, so it's difficult to pick one. But I would say that my favorite works are is teaching and of teachings to communities. I don't teach much here, but in Peru, I would go to impoverished areas in the outskirts of the city and teach children collage and engage with them. What are you working right now? Oh, yes. Right now I'm working on bigger formats and stuff like this, you know. I'm trying to do like, oh, you can see, let me, like on ripped collages, like really big pieces, because I figured that if I'm gonna like do like the gallery game or the museum game, I cannot go with my little 4x4 collages. Hey, this is my work, you know. I have to go like big, and the thing to go big is to use the material. So in Barcelona, you see like these poles with lot of posters, concert posters. So I go and rip the posters and then put like some kind of decollage on top of it, which is not finished. It's like a work in progress, which is not my really my style. But yeah, I'm working in bigger pieces right now. What color paper and mediums you use? Oh, of course, Canson paper is my favorite. I use a lot of cardstock. As you can see, cardstock allows me first to color grade my collages. I can do blue collages, red collages, stop collages, you know. So for me, Canson paper is the best one. And as you can see also, I use very little, I do very little Frankensteins of images. I usually do like one or two images, and that's it. That's my collage. And then I complement it with geometrical shapes with cardstocks and other things. But usually I try to use as least possible images in my collage so I don't clutter the piece so the message is clear, you know? How many mediums is optimal to combine? What do you refer by mediums? Like paint, acrylic, collage, stuff like that? That is what you refer, Mary? If it's so, no worries because you can combine whatever you like. Actually, there's not really many rules to collage, and whatever you think it's optimal to combine, it's optimal, you know. It's the cool thing about collage. When you study in art school, you get so many like academic things thrown to you. Collage, no, collage is really punk. You do what you know best, and you just keep doing, keep doing, and keep doing, and you will become better. You know, it's like you start like playing 3 accords, and then you play 5, 6, 7. Oh my God, I know a solo, exactly like that. So just keep doing it. What scissors and knife do you use? Any brands? Yes, my friend, I have some brands for you. First, I love Fiskars. It's a Finnish brand of scissors. It's my favorite scissors, and I use these scissors a lot because not small, not that big, really smooth, titanium, great Fiskars. And for knives, Olfa is my brand. Olfa is the yellow ones, you know. They're a Japanese brand, which are really, really good. I don't know which one is more available in Ukraine, but I love this one because usually you have the Exacto knives, which are like really long blades and they're metal, which will hurt your fingers. Exacto brand, Olfa are like kind of like sticky, really good to work with. So Olfa, cutter, and art knife. What are the difference? With cutter, you only do straight lines. And with the knife, you do like the details, stuff like that, no? Straight lines, details. Okay, what is your background? What are your daily jobs around affecting the way you collage? My background, well, you're welcome. Well, I do work only in collage. I'm a all 24/7 collage artist, I guess. But I come with a background of advertising. I work in advertising agencies for 10 years until I quit it at my 30s and started to do stuff. And I try to maintain myself as product as possible. Since I took Collage Academy, it's not possible for me to produce as much as I produced before because now I do like a lot of researching and teaching and finding teachers and creating communities. It's exhausting. We all, as artists, we would love to just produce our stuff and let other people handle the whole other thing, but we can't. So it's really what it is. Do you see? Let's see here. Hey, Shashi, what collection am I talking to you at the moment? What do you think is political? Yes, for me, hi Shashi, and for me, I love ripping paper. I always being like super technical in terms. I love precision, and I love like really pristine stuff. But lately, I've been doing more like visceral stuff because I don't. I think that political art kind of deserve that visceral look. So I've started ripping paper a lot, and I'm really enjoying a lot of those. And yes, I think not only political art, political collage, but political art is more widespread nowadays because, as you can see, the world is going to shit, and we are going. We have wars everywhere. We have like a severe blackdown here in Spain some days ago, and the whole thing, it seems like a little bit like that the thing is gonna just blow up. So yes, I think now more than ever, people are using collage and art to express themselves, and it's really like fills my heart with a lot of joy when I see that. Okay, have you created political pieces and then become well, this has answered. No, different paints, pastel, okay, train yourself. Yeah. Oh yeah, I have a, I have a scissor earring here. Yes, thank you for noting. Este, and any more questions? Well, remember one thing. Keep doing collage and keep pushing your collage making. And what I mean by keep pushing, do stuff that may seem difficult to you. You know, you go, okay, I'm gonna cut this, but oh my God, I don't want to cut it. Just push yourself to really like to do difficult stuff. Think every piece you're doing is worth gallery, museums. Just try to think like that of your work, and I assure you that you will love your work little by little more because you're putting all your stuff in your work. So that's for me.
Thank you so much, Kike. It was amazing. I think
Thank
we
you.
all are very inspired by it. And thank you for being here. This meeting is recorded, and recordings will be available after the whole program ends. You can upload your political collages into the Google folder. I shared the link before in the chat. The link will also be in the follow-up email. Follow Stay on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. Please register for the next workshops, and we will see you. And thank you for being here and being with us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you everyone for being here. And remember, if you are interested in the history of collage and workshops or whatnot, there is a page, Collage Academy, in Instagram that you can visit. I will be gladly to take a look at your work done in the class and give you some feedback. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Annette, for thinking of me. Good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you too. Thank you. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lola,
Thank
for the
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.